Well, hello, this is Wilson Cole, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Marketing Moments. Today, I want to talk to you about a technique that we utilize to grow the magazine. We've utilized to grow Adams, Evans, and Ross and several other companies that I've been involved in. And it's kind of a variation of a technique that I learned from the late Chet Holmes. We refer to it as the Fantastic 50. And, years ago, I can remember I was talking with my wife and we were having breakfast, and I had my 5 or 6 year old youngest daughter at that time. She was sitting at the table with us, and I was kind of complaining that we just weren't landing the quality of clients, the size of the clients that I'd like. We were getting the smaller clients, but the big game changer type clients we just weren't getting. And over breakfast, I probably whined about it for about 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, we just don't have these type of clients. And my youngest daughter looked up at me and she says, well, Dad, have you asked them if they want to be your client? And, that sounds pretty simplistic, but, it was really one of those that it was an epiphany for me. And I thought I was fairly slick when it came to marketing, but we just weren't marketing enough and in the right ways to attract these larger companies. We may once a year, twice a year, reach over to them, talk to them, ask them if we could do business with them, and then we'd hang up the phone and they'd say, well, we'll look into it, send me your information, and nothing would happen. Well, the problem is they wind up staying with whoever they're staying with, or if things change, they're going to make a change with whoever called them last. So we refer to this technique as the Fantastic 50. And what I want you to do is I want you to take your market and I want you to think of 50 clients. 50 clients that if you just had 5 or 10% of them, it would change your life. It would bring in so much revenue. Your company would double, triple in size. Because here's the neat thing about it is you may have 500 companies or 5,000 companies in your market, but the 80-20 rule always will apply. 20% of the companies will represent 80% of the purchases. So take a look at those 20%, keep it around 50. I wouldn't go, you can go larger if you have the systems for it, but I always recommend I'd rather do something very, very well on a smaller scale and then always scale up if need be. But take 50 of those clients. Take 50 of those prospects. And what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to them once every 2 weeks with a phone call. And every other week after that, I want you to send them some type of information in the old-fashioned mail. You can also follow up with them a couple of times in email. But what you want to do, and you kind of want it to be a coherent, basically something that builds on top of that last communication. You want it to be a conversation that's going to last for 12 months. I can tell you, we've done this with the collections side of the business with Adams, Evans, and Ross, and we've added companies that just years ago we would have just died to have gotten. We've done the same thing over on the magazine side to where 24 of the largest companies in the industry advertise in our magazine. We now have 36 advertisers in the hard copy magazine, where we actually have more advertisers in the magazine now than the other publications combined. And that was by using this one simple technique. When we call and we talk to somebody, whether they needed collection services over on the Adams, Evans, and Ross side or over on the advertising side with recruiting and staffing solutions, when they said, no, we're just not interested, then we kind of took that as they're not interested from the aspect of we haven't given them enough information. Now, I'm not one to strong arm, and if somebody tells me, no, I don't want to ever do business with you, don't waste my time. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when they tell you that they're not interested, then that's fine. Send them, if you're in the staffing industry, which of course you're going to be, but if you're in the staffing industry supplying staffing, or whether you're supplying software or insurance, you have information that company could use. So what you can do is you send them a free report on how to reduce their workman's comp. or send them a free report on the best practices if you're selling software, on how to flow things through. Follow up, see if they got the free report. Create a webinar. Invite them to a webinar. One of the things that we do over on the collection side is we do the top 7 mistakes that staffing and recruiting firms make and what you can do to avoid them when it comes to credit. And so we will do these webinars sometimes to our own list. We will also do them for other companies, whether they be insurance companies or funding companies, where we get invited to do their monthly webinars to their members as well. But invite them to a webinar. Call them on the phone. You have a reason where if you're constantly calling and you're saying, hey, do business with me, do business with me, do business with me, they're going to probably tell you no unless there's a problem. But if you earn their business and then you have the rules of reciprocity that kick in, to where if all of a sudden you're giving them information on how to avoid credit loss, or you're giving them information on best practices and best flows, you're inviting them to webinars, there's a relationship that builds up. And like I said, we now over on the magazine side control, oh my goodness, about 2 to 3 times as many advertisers as anyone else. Over on the collection side of the business, we have 27% of the market. Any collection that comes in, 27% of the companies out there utilize our services. And that is from utilizing these simple techniques. So the one thing I'll say is don't underestimate the power of persistence, but also intelligent persistence. So lay out a marketing campaign where you're going to touch base with them twice by phone a month, and on the other times by email and by mail at least twice a month. And lay out that campaign. And my suggestion is lay it out on a quarterly basis. And even lay out, where you start laying out one letter, if it's a form letter, or one invite, lay everything out to where it runs on autopilot, to where when you start getting busy, you don't stop doing the things that made you successful as far as bringing in those new prospects. So pick your 50 companies that you want to do business with and go after them. And over the next 12 months, my goodness, if you just landed 5 or 10% of them, it would change. It would change the rules of the game. The list that we created over on the magazine, we wound up with over half of the companies that we were targeting came into the magazine. And so over on the collection side, out of the 50 that we targeted, 39 of those companies became clients. So it's a powerful technique. It takes some persistence, but like I said, it's going to take some intelligent persistence as far as creating reasons to follow up with them. Until next time.